Hey guys, what's up? Scottish Stick here once again. Right, now, there's something I want to talk about, okay? It's weird, it's not something that I would think I would want to talk about, but I really want to talk about it. It's been a while since I discussed any, Sega news on this channel. For a while there, I felt like I was turning into a Sega news channel in general because, I have a lot of opinions about the company, a lot of stuff that I like to comment on, a lot of things I like to say about them, etc, etc. I actually went back and checked. The last time I made a video talking about something that Sega was doing was actually that video that I did about Streets of Rage 4 and Sakura Wars coming out, in the same week. Which is crazy, because that was like months ago, and there's been like loads of shit, like new game announcements or things that I should have spoke about, but I just couldn't be bothered. Until this weekend. So, as I record this, it's currently kind of late in the day on the Sunday. I think technically Tokyo Game Show is still going on, but it will definitely be just wrapping up. So unless Sega wants to shadow bomb us with some more shadow bomb, what the fuck's that? Unless Sega wants to give us a bunch more information, right literally the very end, I'm okay with saying that, yeah, we've pretty much heard exactly what it is we're going to hear for the foreseeable future regarding this new Virtua Fighter project, okay? And I say project, okay, because it ain't a game, right? It's no a fucking game that they just announced. It is Virtua Fighter X eSports. Now, a bit of background, actually. A wee while ago, back when I was doing a lot of Sega-related content, I actually made a video talking about the top 5 franchises that I wanted Sega to go back to, okay? And I populated that list from a perspective that I thought was good for the company. Not something that I personally wanted, but what I thought was good for them. And on that list, okay, I had Virtua Fighter, and I had it in number 1, okay? Because it just did not make any sense to me that such a prestigious franchise in the fighting game genre was being left alone, not to mention fighting games with the popularity of eSports and all that was just kicking right the fuck off. But Sega was doing nothing with Virtua Fighter. They were just let's just AM2, you guys make some more Hatsune Miku games, and that was kind of it, It just felt so weird to me. But other than that, I'm very much, how should I put this? Okay, guys, I am the biggest fighting game fan who doesn't play fighting games, okay? I love following, tournaments for certain fighting games. I subscribe to, Maximilian Dude. He's one of my favorite channels, actually, right? I do not play fighting games, but I love looking up professional fighting game play. I love looking up lore of characters and storylines of fighting games and whatnot. But when it comes to actually playing them, I usually can't be arsed putting in the time and effort to get good, as it were. Okay, I think the closest thing that ever happened to me was for Smash Brothers. For the Wii U specifically. I tried to get really good at that game. It's actually the same way I feel about Puyo Puyo, to be honest. Okay, that's a franchise that I really love, but I'm more into that. I'm more into it for the characters, the story, and watching high level play. Not saying I don't enjoy playing it. I definitely enjoy playing it, but it's literally my least favorite thing about it. It's so weird, but let me tell you guys, Virtua Fighter, I am so ready. So fucking ready for a new one of those to come out and to really try and, get my teeth into it, okay? Not just because it's Sega's primo fighting game. Obviously that's partially to do with it, but there's obviously the link that Virtua Fighter has always had to Shenmue, Shenmue started off as a Virtua Fighter RPG until Yu Suzuki decided to make whole new characters, but even though he was making the whole new characters, they were kind of all just counterparts of what you would get in Virtua Fighter, Ryo Hazuki was pretty much just Akira Yuki, Lan Di was pretty much just Lao Chan, a whole bunch of stuff like that, and yeah, even though Shenmue is my favorite game, actually fighting in Shenmue 1 and 2, where it used like a fighting system very heavily inspired from Virtua Fighter, I can't say confidently that I ever like loved that. You know, I never felt the need to get good at Shenmue, probably because in the games you actually don't even do that much fighting. Like when you, especially the first game, when you really go back to Shenmue 1, you're really not doing much fighting at all, and the fighting system is like so robust. You get what I mean? But regardless, that link is enough for me to want to get in, you know? So I just spent like 5 minutes talking about my own like little experiences, right? What actually is this game? So, or what do I think it's gonna be? Because again, we don't fucking know. We saw like a little montage of some like crowds of, I guess, past Virtua Fighter events, and then we saw like Akira's back, which, you know, Akira's back is like one of the most like devastating things in gaming. Okay, that thing is like real powerful. Okay, you don't want to get smacked by that back, honest to God. So seeing it was quite intimidating. But it's Akira UK. He's got his back to you. He sort of looks back, and then just like, psh, Virtua Fighter eSports. The title just comes up, and that was it. There was like a little bit of gameplay in the background, and I think that was actually from Virtua Fighter 5. It wasn't from like any new game. But yeah, fuck, man. Everybody obviously is like shouting, you know, it's like, oh my god, Virtua Fighter 6, like, but why the fuck are they not saying it's Virtua Fighter 6, right? They just literally are announcing, like, the project Virtua Fighter eSports, and that's it, you know, they're not, like, giving us any more details beyond that, and I am real, I don't want to say nervous, because I'm expecting, right, I expect for this project, this esports project, because I guess Puyo Puyo esports ended up doing like really well for Sega. You know, they've really built a really big scene surrounding that game, at least in Japan. I expect they just want to like build their esports even more and stick with it. It's like, oh, what other competitive games do we have? Oh yeah, Virtua Fighter. Let's do that shit. So are they gonna do to Virtua Fighter what they did to Puyo Puyo, where they just make like a very specific esports tailored version of it? I don't think I want that, and I don't think a lot of Virtua Fighter fans want that either. Not because it wouldn't be like good for them to use it for tournaments and that, but because Virtua Fighter's been away for so long. You know, so many people are hungry for it, you know? Puyo Puyo esports came in the midst of like Puyo Puyo Tetris and a bunch of other like re-releases. You know, Puyo Puyo was doing just fine, right? But not the case with Virtua Fighter. Even though Virtua Fighter was a series that Sega never wanted you to forget about, right? If you actually look back at all the like little tie-ins and whatever, Virtua Fighter has always sort of been a thing, you know, like Akira Yuki is in fucking Smash Brothers Ultimate, alright? He's an assist trophy, alright? That's honestly like a third-party assist trophy. That's honestly quite a big deal, all things considered, you know? Obviously he's not in there as a character, but next best then being an assist trophy, a third-party one at that. Yeah, I think that speaks volumes for the importance of Virtua Fighter. And yeah, I really don't want it to just be an esports focused version, you know. I want it to be Virtua Fighter 6 with a decent amount of like, you know, single player content. Don't go the Street Fighter 5 route with this Sega, okay? Because y'all might remember, fuck, how long ago was that? It was like 4 years ago or something. Street Fighter 5 came out. So Street Fighter 5 comes out, and it's just a real bare bones package, and you know, they did add to it over time. Some of the stuff you had to pay for, some of the stuff they just added in for free. Okay, and it's gotten to the point now where Street Fighter 5 is apparently pretty fucking good. You know, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of characters. They, I guess, you know, they eventually delivered on the promise, but that stigma of what it was like at launch, where, you know, it had like no content, never really went away, alright? It's still got that sort of Street Fighter 5, you know, it doesn't have that like pizzazz, whatever the fuck that means. It doesn't have like that, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to sound cheesy, okay, I'll just say X Factor, there we go. I hate that term, but it doesn't have the X Factor, okay? It doesn't have that hype around it, sadly. It obviously does have a big esports scene, and I'm sure Virtua Fighter would as well, but on sort of like a casual, you know, appreciating fighting games level, Street Fighter 5 is very you know? And I don't want this next Virtua Fighter game to be very Just like, release the game, have a decent amount of, like, you know, stuff for fans, you know. Maybe bring back that quest mode. Can't say I've ever, like, played too much of quest mode. I know it was, like, a big thing in Virtua Fighter 4, and I think it was in the first version of Virtua Fighter 5, if I remember correctly. But for whatever reason, they didn't bring it back for Final Showdown. But yeah, arcade mode, quest mode, have like all that character customization stuff that everybody loves from Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. Anything new you want to bung in there, like maybe some sort of like story mode, you know? Virtua Fighter's always been very, very light on story. And I'm not necessarily demanding that they start now, but even if there was some sort of like, can you imagine, it's Virtua Fighter 6 or something, and there's like a story mode, and you can like pick a character, and let's say you pick someone who's been in all the games, like Akira Yuki, and you can actually choose what game and play through the story mode of that game. You know, Virtua Fighter 1, 2, 3. And if there was another character who didn't come till a bit later, I don't know, Brad Burns, okay, he was introduced in Virtua Fighter 4, so you only have Virtua Fighter 4 and 5 for him. I don't know, something like that. And it doesn't even have to be like a strong story mode, it can just be like a collection of stills and text, whatever, just like anything. Anything for us to do other than the eSports shit. I don't know, is that everything I want to say? Oh, I guess I'll talk about this as well. Okay, there have been like little, in fact, actually, I have quite a bit left to talk about. This video is going to be really long. There is actually like a lot of like little things to discuss in regards to Virtua Fighter potentially coming back, okay? Number one, Sega has obviously started like experimenting with what they call fog gaming, which is going to be like their little sort of like arcade-centric cloud gaming service where they use arcades as data centers, and you know, people can play arcade games out of hours, you know, and in a world where we're all impacted by this pandemic bullshit, okay, that seems more ideal than ever before, okay? And you gotta wonder, they must have some like big game planned to really like kick that off. And what's one of Sega's biggest arcade games ever? Biggest arcade franchises ever? Yeah, Virtua Fighter, obviously. And then there was also the fact that, like, AM2, they've not really been doing too much. I was talking about Hatsune Miku games before, but they've not really been doing too much. And Yu Suzuki himself has talked about how he's hinted at it. You can Google this, that I think his exact words when he was asked about Virtua Fighter and I believe Outrun, he was asked, there may be something in the works, so, you know, I don't know what that means necessarily, but yeah, there you go. Yu Suzuki has expressed interest in coming back to do Virtua Fighter. Now, AM2, I guess they can make a game without him, because I don't think Yu Suzuki ever touched Virtua Fighter 5. I don't think he ever did that. So, that's a thing, and fuck, I think there was one other thing regarding Virtua Fighter that was a thing. Oh yeah, the whole actually, yeah, that was the whole eSports thing in general. I remember I had in my head all these different reasons why Virtua Fighter should come back, and the fact that Sega kicked off their whole eSports thing in the first place was one of them, because they only ever had Puyo Puyo. You know, right now they only have Puyo Puyo, so, and it's just weird. Okay, Puyo Puyo is obviously pretty cool, very big in Japan, but they could probably use something else. And that something else, as we've seen from Tokyo Game Show, is going to be Virtua Fighter. So, yeah. That's that. So yeah, guys, I don't know. This was one of these things that I really just wanted to discuss, okay? Like, I'm not a big Virtua Fighter fan. There's a video on this channel from years ago, like more than 10 years ago, that I just decided to make on a whim called Top 10 Sega Games, okay? You can go back and look at it if you want, and there's a lot of, like, predictable choices on there, you know, Shenmue's number 1, blah, blah, blah. But I put Virtua Fighter 5 on that list. I think I put it at, like, number 8 or something. And I went back to watch that video recently, and I'm just like, what? Poser! You know, I was just like, I'm nowhere near as big a Virtua Fighter fan as I guessed to put it at number 8 in a video like that, you know? I want to be, that's why I'm making this video, that's why I give as much of a shit as I do. But yeah, it was just a weird thing that I sort of like uncovered. Anyway, let's wrap this up before we get to fucking 15 minutes. Virtua Fighter, please Virtua Fighter 6, please be a good game. I'm fucking ready. Junen Hyundaio, is that how you say it? I don't know. That's that. See you after, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.